All right, I'm here with Steve Krombolz. Steve, great to have you on, and thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
So we would love to hear about FantasyDraft, and I know you're CEO and founder. Would love to hear all about it. So we'll get going with some questions here. First of all, can you tell me about FantasyDraft and when you started and why you started it?
Yeah, we started FantasyDraft in 2014, April of 2014. So that's ancient history now, especially in the DFS space. At the time, the only companies that were around that are still here are the companies that everybody knows, the FanDuels and DraftKings of the world. So we're one of the certainly senior citizens in the space. So we started the company in our kitchens in 2014, originally up in DC, then relocated down to Charlotte, North Carolina.
Classic startup fashion, starting in the kitchen.
Yeah, exactly. Then launched and went to market in, it was right around Thanksgiving of 2015 or 2014. Launched with much fanfare and quickly had a lot of problems with the site, which if you've been in this business a long time, you're going to face sooner or later. Unfortunately, we faced them on day one. But it's a good part of our story because we sort of were able to overcome it. We were able to show the market that we would handle issues if they occur the right way and put the interests of our players first, and kept moving forward. So been around ever since then on the in the daily fantasy sports space. Have looked to, we've had a few standard principles that we've always lived by. Originally, even since day one, we always build ourselves as the site to put players first. So trying to do things to make the ecosystem a little bit more player friendly, like lower max entry caps, at the time lower rake, and this was before there was any legislation. So there were no requirements on anything. You could have max enter or unlimited max entry in every contest. So that's where we started, and then we've sort of evolved to different models over that time. We had some rake-free contests throughout the years, and then, of course, this year we launched a completely new model with a site that's 100% rake-free on a subscription-based platform. So you have to be a member to play. That's sort of the super high level, quick synopsis.
It's really incredible. You see the big players who've persisted and really, it looks like you guys are the only other ones who've really survived, through this legislative period. And you have a totally different model, this rake free that you just launched this year to all your players. I'd love to hear about that and why you chose that direction.
Yeah, I mean, we've obviously been in the business a long time, and we're battling some pretty large competitors who have spent astronomical amounts of money. So when you're looking at the market, you certainly can't outspend them to grow. So we have to figure out what's going to be a need that we think we can address. And if you spend any time online or on forums or blogs, which I do a lot, you quickly realize that the number one complaint is, certainly amongst players who care enough to at least be on sites where they're going to be reading about how to become a better player, is the ever rising rake. The bigger sites out there have continued to raise rake to a point where people think it's unbeatable, meaning, the folks that play over time and try to see a return, that they think that in some cases they're not able to make a return. It certainly makes the pool of users that can make a return smaller. So we identified rake as being pretty much the number one pain point from players, and that would go from, somewhat casual, certainly on up to the high volume players. So we wanted to look at ways that we could attack that. In the past, like I said, we initially launched and had a rake free just for our head-to-head contest. I believe that was a year and a half ago or so, give or take. We had a lot of success with that, drove a lot of volume, had a lot of new players come in. So we decided to expand on that. So we went 100% rake free. We launched just before, it was sort of a soft launch just before the NFL season. And then, of course, we are a business, so you have to have a revenue component. So we launched on a subscription model. So we have a number of varying subscription levels that we think are well suited for all different types of players, and that includes a free tier. So all the membership options are based on playthrough, so dollars played. So we'll have an initial tier for free, and then on up to unlimited, sort of to try and address the needs of all different types of players.
So if I go on the website today, I can play up to, I see about $100 for free, which is amazing. You can't do that, I think, on any other site today. And then I start paying. What does it cost to play after that?
1 second. Yeah, the membership tiers start, like you said, exactly. So and to be clear, there is no other site anywhere that we've seen that's rake free. So we're the only ones on all their contests. Occasionally, from time to time, you'll see a promotional contest on Yahoo, but generally speaking, everybody's charging rake. So the initial plan would be up to $100 a month, the entry fees. Of course, again, that's free. And then we have a starter plan that's $5.99 a month, and that's up to $1,000 in monthly entry fees, and we'll give a 7-day free trial on that. So you can play up to $1,000 and rake free entries for 7 days and not pay anything to try it out, see how you like it. And then from there on out, it'll be $5.99 a month. And we have an all-American plan that's $14.99 up to $3,000 in entry fees a month. And then you have tiers above that at $10,000, $25,000, $100,000, and then unlimited. Unlimited play being $1,000 a month, which for the high volume players that are going to select that tier, they're saving tens of $1,000s a month on that plan. So it's pretty popular amongst them. So we think there's something for everybody.
Sounds like it. Now, what's the reception been since you launched this to everyone earlier this year?
It's been great. It's been great. We've seen our user base increase exponentially. We've had much larger prizes. We've been anywhere from 3 to 5 times where we were last year. So the initial results, because it's still pretty early in the process, considering we just launched in August, have been really good. We're really happy with it.
And can you play fantasy draft in every state, or are you still limited in terms of the national coverage due to legislation?
No, we are licensed. There's the standard, 8 states maybe that you don't play in, that no one allows, including FanDuel and DraftKings, Washington, Iowa, which is actually coming online here soon, Arizona, and a couple others. But every other state outside of that, you can play fantasy draft, and that includes all the states with DFS legislation where we are licensed and regulated. So that would include Virginia, Pennsylvania, Missouri, Tennessee, New York. Those are the states those are, just to name a few, that have DFS regulation and also have more stringent requirements for licensing, and in some cases heavy licensing fees, $50,000 a year. And we're licensed and regulated in all those states, which is important because, you talk about safety in DFS, and there still are some concerns from players out there. And the advice that I give them is always, if you want to make sure you're playing on a site that is regulated and is scrutinized by state gaming officials, take a look at where they allow play and make sure that they're allowing play in states like New York, Pennsylvania, Indiana, Tennessee, because if they're not, there's a reason they're not. So it's something to consider. But yeah, you can play everywhere.
Now, the 800-pound gorilla in the room is sports betting. It's coming
Yeah.
online. We're here in New York and New Jersey. It's live. You can hop on the Path train and, in 5 minutes be in New Jersey, play some sports bets and come back to New York. How do you see sports betting affecting your business?
You know what? I actually think it's good for everybody. It's sort of one of those old "with the tide, all ships rise." It just creates more fan engagement for sports, and I think it can benefit all products out there that help users consume sports. So, there's anybody who follows the space. You guys are probably very familiar. There's a reason why FanDuel and DraftKings are the runaway leaders in every state. It's because they've had years of advance notice that this was coming, in the sense that they've built a large database of users. And daily fantasy sports users are, there's a highly likely chance that they're going to be interested in sports betting. So the crossover has been very good. And then, of course, from there on over, there's been great success they've had crossing users from sports betting to online gambling or online casino as well. So I think it's going to be good for everybody. For us, it's certainly been interesting. We've had a lot of interest in our business. We've met with a lot of operators, a lot of European operators that are coming over to the space. So it's something we've definitely got our eye on.
Do you think there's a future in rake-free sports betting?
I do. I think there's a big future in that, because you look at the space, right? And if you have 18 operators in New Jersey, and some of these are multi-billion-dollar companies, how are you going to differentiate yourself and grow the business? So, like, I just mentioned, FanDuel and DraftKings are the runaway leaders in New Jersey, but there's a bunch of other big names. I mean, these are companies that have, you have Fox Bets, which is BetStars, and now with Fox, and you have 888, and you have Bet365 that'll be in there if they're not live soon. And these are companies that know what they're doing and have huge arsenals. So how do you differentiate yourself? It's tough. You can't. Not everybody's going to win by spending the most amount of money. So I do think that there's a place if legislatively you can figure out how to make it work, for a low priced option, including a rake-free option. So sort of on the same model that we have today.
So I'd love to hear what's next for you. You guys launched Rake Free. It's out for everybody. You have these amazing pricing tiers. As you said, if you're spending, $100,000 or more, really a big whale on a monthly basis in the daily fantasy category, the economics make so much more sense to play fantasy draft than anywhere else. Now, what's happening, what's going to happen here in the future as we enter 2020, 2021. Obviously, we're in the heart of football season now, but so many other opportunities out there. Where do you think you're going to take the business?
Yeah. I mean, we're going to continue to push, continue to try to be disruptive in the marketplace. We think that the rake-free model really is something that's not only good for us, but good for the consumer. It's, as you just said, it's sort of a no-brainer if you have any interest in playing daily fantasy and trying to have, a much improved ROI over time. So we're going to continue to push the envelope and find creative ways to grow our business. We're competing against much larger companies, so you have to be creative, right? Because you're not going to be able to spend the same amount of money. So we're doing some things like we've built some free-to-play sort of B2B2C products. Our first foray into that was with Hooters. That you'll see a lot of Hooters branding on our site over some contests. We actually have a Hooters skin site, and we've built a free-to-play game that they're using to try to drive user or restaurant visits. We actually are about a day or two away from announcing a deal we've done with an NBA franchise. Again, building a free-to-play game to promote to their user base to drive engagement for them. And then it's all going to be within the same ecosystem. So it'll be a fantasy draft powered product. So when you register to play the game, you'll be in our ecosystem. And then we'll be able to convert you over to daily fantasy. So these are the type of things that we're looking to do to be more creative and to be disruptive and to get our name out there and to continue to build our user base. So you'll see more and more of us out there, and we're excited about the future.
I'm very excited for you guys. Last couple questions here before the lightning round. Tell us about your history, as a company. Are you funded with venture capital or bootstrapped? How many employees, and are you guys hiring?
Yeah, we are privately funded by a group of investors here in Charlotte. They've supported the business since we launched. We have about, give or take, 10 people here in the office, and then another 15 developers up in Canada, and then probably 5 to 10 other outsourced folks that help us on the app with some marketing stuff.
Lean and mean.
And yeah, lean and mean. You have to be, I take it you have some background in the startup space, so you can probably understand, you have to be sort of a jack of all trades. And when you're lean and mean, you have to be willing to do everything at any time. So that's the way we've always approached it. And we're always looking for good people. So always looking for good, sharp folks that can help us take this business to the next level. So if you've got a desire and you're in the space and you know how to drive users on the marketing side, don't hesitate to reach out.
That sounds great. Well, Steve, we're going to jump into the lightning round, and that'll be all. But thank you so much for sharing your story, telling us all about the new product, especially Rake Free. We're really excited about the game and where things are going for Fantasy Draft. So without further ado, we'll hop right into the lightning round. All right.
Fire away.
Favorite football team?
College or pro?
College.
Penn State.
All right. Results of the
Lions.
Prediction for the Penn State-Ohio State game.
Oof. Oh, I think it's going to be Penn State 21, Ohio State 17.
All right. You heard it here
But we have to figure some stuff out before that happens.
What's the best book you've read this year?
Oh, that's a good question. You know what? I read a wide variety of books. And I read a book called The Tower of Babel. It's from a series called like The Adventures of Senlin or something. And that was sort of like just a fiction book, and that was really good, and I enjoyed it. And it was like 4 of them, or 3 or 4 of them that I tore through pretty quickly. So I would have to say that was the most entertaining book that I've read recently.
We'll take
and
note.
I just read I just finished the latest book that came out about the whole DraftKings and FanDuel and growing of the DFS industry, which I find really interesting because I've been so intimately involved with it. So just finished that one as well.
2020 Super Bowl champion.
Sadly, the Patriots.
One more for Tommy. Your favorite podcast?
Oh, that's a good one. You know what? I listen to so many because of being in the DFS space, but I would probably say the one I like the most overall is I like the Joe Rogan podcasts. I'll have them on in the background a lot, and they're so long. Outside of that, I've always enjoyed like the Serial podcast. Those are really good as well.
All right, last question for you, and this is a biggie. Best town in the Philadelphia suburbs?
Westchester. Obviously.
There you go. Heard it here first.
Yeah.
Not the only person, but not that many that would lean in there. Steve, thank you very much for being on, and really enjoyed speaking with you. Any last parting words you'd like to leave with the readers and listeners?
No, if you haven't played Fantasy Draft, give us a shot. Come over and play some rake-free DFS. I think you'll like what you see with your results, and tell your friends.
All right. Thank you. Have a good afternoon.
Thanks, guys.